Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Well, guys, do you remember this? X marks the spot. Do you remember this? The date is a clue. August 21st, 2017. The first of two eclipses that were going to go from basically coast to coast across the United States. This was a momentous time. And truly, it feels to me, anyway, and many I've spoken to, that this was the beginning of kind of everything we have seen in the recent past with regards to a completely changing world right in front of our eyes. This is the beginning of a momentous time that has been talked about for thousands of years by many different people, traditions. It felt and feels just like something that is so different than anything else that's happened before. So when we look at this, there's several things that stick out when we look at it. For one, you had the first eclipse, which basically went from Oregon down to South Carolina. And there's many things to note with these. And then the next one is going to go and basically cover the northern tier, New England, and go down through Texas and out into the Pacific. And there's many things of note when we look at this. There's so many things that stick out. And so this article was talking about the eclipse. Now the second one is April 8th, 2024. And these are momentous times, my friends out there. And right here, some people in southeast Missouri will get to see two solar eclipses in 7 years without leaving home. As we see, this is where the X crosses. Fascinating looking at this. 2,422 days in between these two eclipses. And if you look at numerologically, 2 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2 equals 10, which equals 1. So it shows that it's the beginning of something different. Perhaps a completely new timeline. Perhaps even completely new reality in many ways. The August 2017 eclipse was the first with the path of totality crossing the Pacific and Atlantic coasts of the U.S. since 1918. What happened in 1918? You remember World War I. Also, and there was many other things that happened in 1918 as well. It was a momentous year. And look at the numerology behind things. Look at the signs and symbols. If you're new to this channel, if you've never looked at this channel before, we get into consciousness, and it's all about consciousness. It's all about how we view things. What is reality? What really is reality? And what's consensus reality as well? We know from quantum physics that we are creating our own reality all the time. And the mass consciousness does the same thing. And so this eclipse was something special. And so, World War I ended in 1918, and it started in 1914, so it lasted 4 years. 4 is a number of manifestation on the physical plane. And so looking at this also, its path of totality made landfall exclusively within the United States, making it the first such eclipse since the country's Declaration of Independence in 1776. So look at those momentous dates. 1776, Declaration of Independence, birth of the United States. That was the last time a total eclipse had gone through just the United States in its totality. And then 1918, the end of World War I, the First World War. Interesting when we look at the numbers. And so if we add, 1918, for instance, you get 1 plus 9 is 10, and you add 1 and 8, that's 19, and 1 plus 9 equals 10, which equals 1, so it's another beginning. And we look at, look into everything, and so right now I'm giving you a lot of little things, but we're going to see things come together. And so the path of the 2017 eclipse crosses with the path of the upcoming total solar eclipse of April 8th, 2024, with the intersection of two paths being in southern Illinois in Makanda Township at Cedar Lake, just south of Carbondale, an area of about 9,000 square miles, including the cities of Makanda, Carbondale, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and Paducah, Kentucky, will thus experience two solar eclipses within the span of less than 7 years. And so that's about 6.5 years apart between the two, which for some is eerily reminiscent of the tribulation period as well. So these are fascinating things. Well, what is at that intersection? Well, at the intersection, basically, we have the New Madrid, which is a huge fault. And it's a mega fault that we have that could produce tremendous earthquakes right in the middle of the country. And jumping ahead a teeny bit, just to say something about the New Madrid, if we look at prophecies, Edgar Cayce said that, and the Mississippi River goes right through it, as we see here. This is the Mississippi running right through it. He said that the Mississippi River would become basically the Mississippi Sea, and the country would be split in two. And so if we look at that prophecy in regards to this, and the fact that these two eclipses go right over the United States, so this feels like this is something all about the United States. But then, of course, the United States dominates the world, as it's been the only superpower now for a while. But also there are challenges that are coming up to that. At the other side, over in Oregon, we have the Cascadia Subduction Zone, which is, again, another area where we could end up having a tremendous earthquake that would be potentially incredibly damaging with a huge loss of life. So this is another kind of clue to what we have going on here. And if we go back, what do we have over here? Well, this area here, Charleston, for instance, is another area with potentially huge earthquake possibility. So we see that, some of this could be related to earth changes for the country, for the United States. And when we realize that, when we look at quantum physics, and again, everything is energy, everything is consciousness. We are all consciousness, having a physical experience in this 3D reality. So many have likened our existence to that of a holograph or even a computer program. And so when we look at it, there are clues in the program to what is lying ahead of us, or what is probable in our timeline as part of that program. So over here, Charleston had a huge earthquake, and it actually liquefied the ground, and this was in the 1880s. And so you have basically this path intersecting at what Edgar Cayce said would be basically the Mississippi Sea, because he said basically the Great Lakes were going to empty into the Gulf of Mexico directly, and then the United States would actually be separated into two halves. And it's interesting because X marks the spot kind of perfectly for the New Madrid seismic zone, as we see right here. Very, very interesting coincidence, perhaps. The other thing that we have going on over in this area is tons of volcanoes. And of course, with the grand solar minimum that we find ourselves in, all the volcanic activity, it's only a matter of time before Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, all these other ones, Mount Rainier, they all start going. And again, this is in that area where we have a crossing. Another interesting note was this earthquake, right? August 21st, 2017. And we had Hurricane Harvey, that was formed on August 17th, 2017. And then we had two more hurricanes right after Harvey, and we had three basic landfalls in the U.S. shortly thereafter, the first of the eclipses, which since this time period, when you look at what's gone on in the world with the earth changes, it's been incredible. Absolutely incredible. Look at the storms we had. We had a record year as far as cyclones and hurricanes. It was incredible. Even with cooling ocean waters in the Atlantic, we still had an incredible year. And of course, we had Hurricane Michael in Florida, and we had Florence as well in the Carolinas. We have seen incredible earth changes around the world. We have seen so many people swept away through flash floods with rivers, and with so many main streets around the world turning into rivers. There is no doubt that it feels that around this time everything ramped up to a huge level and increased tremendously. And then we have what many view as the Revelation 12 sign. And so this was the sign from Revelation 12, 1 through 5. A great sign appeared in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. And then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Its tail swept away a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. So many believe that this actually happened shortly thereafter. And basically it was an astrological alignment with the constellation of Virgo. And so we have this that actually happened on September 23rd of the same year, coincidentally, with the beginning of the eclipses. And so it's all really, there's so much evidence, and I'll have the links for you guys to really go through all of this and really look into all of this, because we do live in a matrix of sorts, and it has programming to it, and perhaps some of that programming is predictive programming in order to get about a certain desired outcome, in order to shape consciousness and direct consciousness to a certain outcome. It's fascinating to look at. And so when we look at other things going on, Deagle.com I've talked about countless times. When you look at the populations of what it shows to be the NATO countries and the US allies, it shows coincidentally the forecast. Now this is 2017, the year of the first eclipse, and the forecast for 2025, the year after the second eclipse has happened. The U.S. goes from 327 million people down to 100 million people in population. What happened to 227 million people? They are not there, according to this forecast. And Deagle is all about military. And they watch movement of everything, all sorts of military hardware, military equipment. They watch what's going on all around the world militarily. And it's not the only one. There is a map, an Agenda 21 map, as well, that shows population decreases in NATO countries very much like this, and showing the U.S. decrease by approximately 70% as far as population, which goes along with this as well. And it's straight on down the line with all the other basically NATO countries. And let's just look at two really quick. The UK, 66 million people in 2017, 15 million in 2025. That's massive. Where did all those people go? And we look at France, just to give you another, 67 million people down to 39 million people. And then while we're at it, let's look at Germany, 81 million people, 28 million people. Where did all those people go? And just to show it's not worldwide, it's not earth change related necessarily. It feels more like this is war related. China, 1.4 billion, 1.4 billion, stays the same. Look at Russia, 142 million, 142 million, stays the same. Let's look at India, 1.3 billion, 1.3 billion, stays the same. So you could see this is something that is not necessarily earth change related, except for the fact that the other thing that could be in here is obviously the new Madrid fault going, perhaps Yellowstone going, but Yellowstone would affect the United States the most, and Canada. And by the way, when we look at Canada, it goes from 36 million people to 26 million people. It would also affect, Northern Europe probably the most, but it would affect the whole world as well. And when we look at the southern hemisphere, a lot of the countries gain people. Here Brazil goes from 207 to 210 million, so there's an increase in population. And there seems to be an increase in population basically throughout Central America and South America, which is probably Americans, North Americans, Canadians, and US perhaps leaving the area. So Mystery Babylon, who is Mystery Babylon in Revelations? And basically, when you really look into it, in Babylon the Great, it shows that it's a system. It's a system, and it's a system that we've lived under, and it's a system that basically has morphed over time. It turned into the Catholic Church, and then ended up controlling basically the armies of the world through the English Empire, and then now through the Empire of the United States. And so Babylon the Great is supposedly going to be destroyed in one day, and here is the quote. This is Revelation 17:3-5. So he carried me away in spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, which are also coincidentally colors of the Catholic Church, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, obviously. So rich. We've touched on in past videos how rich the church is, having the ability to probably wipe out poverty by themselves, certainly with the help of other governments, but that's not their purpose. Having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness from her fornication, and upon her head was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, Mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And so when we look at Babylon the Great, and we've talked about how Constantine the Great created Catholicism because Christianity was spreading, and if you can't beat them, join them, but make a version for yourself that will allow you to control the minds and the hearts and the fears of the people. And that is what he did. And so there is a lot to this, and there's other prophecies, such as Edgar Cayce and Nostradamus, talking about how Rome is going to be destroyed, probably in the very near future as well. And also we're going to touch on other prophecies. But as you could see, when you start delving into this, it's pretty clear who it is. It's the Roman Catholic Church, which is working through and has worked through, as I said before, the English Empire, as at our, and not going into our time period, and now the United States as well. But they have controlled things for a long time, going back to 325 AD in the Council of Nicaea. And Babylon the Great, many people have made this correlation, make America great again, and found it to be kind of ominous that great word is in there at this time period. At this time period, great. Babylon the Great, make America great again. And we get into the prophecy of Saint Malachi. And so according to number, the Pope that we have now is the last Pope. And this will be right before the great terrible judge will come and judge the people. And basically, everything, it's Judgment Day. And then everything starts anew. So, obviously, the Pope is not a spring chicken. And so we know that, from this prophecy of St. Malachis Prophecy is legit. Time is short, so we are in that time period according to this. And it was really a very detailed vision. And he gave brief descriptions of each of the popes. And the last pope would be the 112th from the time of his vision. And he also stated that God would judge his people and the city of Rome would be destroyed during the reign of the last pope. In Malachi's vision, a clue was given as to the identity of each pope, including the 112th. And so the 112th is Peter the Roman. And so when we look at Roman and everything, we basically could go and equate it over to the Benedictine order, which over here, the original Benedict came from the founder of the Benedictine order, one of the most prominent orders in the Roman Catholic Church, and the symbol of the Benedictine order is the olive, and Malachis Prophecy basically, again, equated it with the olive. And so it ties in perfectly. And there's so many things that kind of come together, and we see Baba Vanga and her predictions about World War III and everything, and it all kind of goes together again with these predictions come in from all around the globe, and there's literally thousands of people that have seen the time period we're in. And so this is the prophecies of Mother Shipton, where she talks about the dragon and the dragon's tail and coming, and we have all these things that we're seeing up in the sky, perhaps blue kachina, red kachina of the Hopi. All the signs in the sky are there without a doubt. And when you look at Mother Shipton's prophecies, they seem to go very well with the idea of wormwood and the dragon with wormwood. And it's just one after another. And we have the Nostradamus predictions about World War III. And of course, you could always interpret things differently. And so, Mabus or Ma Bush, people have equated this to the Bush family. And we touched on before how it could be related to showing Bush. And there is also Ray Mabus, who has been an ambassador for the U.S., but many people think that this is related to the Bush family. And of course, we just had the ceremony for President Bush, and his wife, Ma Bush, died about 6 months earlier, 7 months. So we have both of those, both of that Bush family elders passing on. And, here the quote is, Mabus or Mabush will soon die, and there will come of people and beasts a horrible rout. Then suddenly one will see vengeance, 100-hand, thirst, hunger, when the comet will run. And then coincidentally, there is perhaps it's going to be visible to the naked eye. Clearly, we don't know yet, but there is a comet that's currently running that will make its closest approach on the 16th of December. And so it's interesting to see, what is going on. And then there's also quatrains with Nostradamus where he clearly talks about a war as if we are in World War III, but then also a revolution going on. A revolution that's separate from the war. And look at what we are seeing in France right now, and now spreading to Belgium and spreading to the Netherlands. It could really only be looked at as a revolution. And perhaps now, with what we're seeing with Brexit and that whole situation, it might start to unravel in the UK as well. And other areas potentially can go as well. So we're seeing all these puzzle pieces coming together. And in case you didn't know, George Washington was a Mason. Did you also know that Albert Pike was a Mason? And did you also know Charles Darwin was a 33rd degree Mason as well? The people that have given us so much of our history in so many ways, and even our philosophies and predictions and prophecies. Many of them are tied into orders that have been running things from behind the scenes. And so Valley Forge, the winter of 1776, American forces, the famous battles going on. And according to Washington's vision, he was visited by an angel that showed him what was going to happen to this country that was being born. And it included an invasion in World War III, what was to be World War III. And so this vision is recorded at the Library of Congress. So this is kind of legit, it's at the Library of Congress, guys. Not something to be taken lightly, because whether or not this is something that's given to us truly from Washington or from a secret society, they let us know their plans in many ways. And there are all these plans that are being right now lived out in front of us. And so in the vision, he basically sees the United States being invaded by forces. And ultimately, the United States pushes back the attack. And then we have Albert Pike, and we've talked about him at length. The Third World War must be fomented between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The world must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. The multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, will receive the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into the public view, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Albert Pike, 1871, who again was another 33rd degree Mason. And so it does clearly outline back in 1871 3 world wars, all to be necessary, and the third one occurring basically in our time frame. So why do they give us all this? Why are these ideas given to us and seeded to us? It's because our consciousness helps to manifest things. So we could see what they're doing, and they are pulling all the strings. And make no bones about it, this world has been run by this mystery Babylon system, this money magic system, which really goes all the way back to the ancient Sumerian times. And they understand the conscious mind and the collective unconscious. So they sow the seeds in the collective, and then they give us signs, basically watering those seeds to help manifest those events to occur at the times that they want to give to us. And so we could see that we have a lot of power in this, and we have to reclaim our power. We have to be aware of what's going on, what's being planned, and how things are being orchestrated. But we also have to reclaim our power. And we must realize that we are, in many cases, we are manifesting these things. We're helping them to manifest. And, some will say that there's no way we could get around this. This is the will of God. And when you look at the outcome of all these prophecies, basically what you have from the Hopi Prophecy, and the Hopi Prophecy talks about the Kachinas coming. And many think that blue Kachina is visible, and perhaps red Kachina as well. And many view these as either planets, stars, or motherships, or beings, high-level, very intelligent beings. But in the Hopi Prophecy it says, when the earth is ravaged and the animals are dying, a new tribe of people shall come unto the earth from many colors, classes, creeds, and who by their actions and deeds shall make the earth green again, and they will be known as the warriors of the rainbow. So after we go through this tremendous purge and incredible time of trial and tribulation on earth, what emerges is a unity from all the different peoples of the earth, all different colors, all different nationalities, all different creeds, all different races, And basically, a unity emerges. And that unity creates a new reality of harmony and peace upon the earth. And as it says, out of the Bible itself, again, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And we also have references to the lion lying with the lamb, and everything is completely changed. Reality is made anew in a beautiful way, in a harmonious way, built on unity and not separation that we see. The powers that be, whether we call them the Illuminati, the Cabal, the Deep State, however you want to call them or label them, their grip on our humanity, their grip on our world is loosening, and they're not going to be able to maintain it. So they would rather destroy everything. And that's what they have planned, is the complete destruction of everything. It's basically, if they're going down, they're going to pull everybody down with them. But ultimately, destiny is a new earth, and destiny is a new reality, and destiny is a consciousness that's going to be based on the collective good and living in harmony and balance with the planet and with each other. Because we've been manipulated by these people, by these beings, because some of them may not even be people in our sense of the world. And they might not be Homo sapiens sapiens, as I like to say. We're going to shed their yoke, and we're going to create a new reality of peace and harmony. But we must be aware of what's going on. We must be aware of the signs that are all around us, and know what they have planned in order to prepare ourselves for it and to wake other people up to it, and in order to collectively start to make the changes that are happening around the world, and that will bring the world into a new golden age. According to the Vedas and the Hindu system, we have been in the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age, and now we're going to be exiting the Dark Age and heading towards a golden age. So ultimately, what's coming is beautiful, and what's coming is necessary. And yes, we are in, as has been said, the birth pangs of the new era. And we are in the cleansing, the great cleansing, the great tribulation, the apocalypse. Because the apocalypse is the unveiling. And we could see. We see the man behind the curtain. We see that the emperor has no clothes on, and we recognize and realize our own power and our own ability to bring positive change in, and to step outside of the system and realize the manipulation that's going on, so that we can start to band together and create a new positive reality. So my friends, as always, please do thumbs up to support the channel, do subscribe, click the bell, get all the notifications, and share with as many people as possible. Let us work together to circumvent the death and destruction that it seems that the 0.5% want to inflict, and instead let us turn it totally on its head, and let's start to manifest that positive vision, and perhaps we can mitigate some of the travail, some of the birth pains, as the new era is about to start. My friends, may you always be blessed with abundant peace, love, good health, happiness, and well-being. Stay safe in these times. God bless, and namaste.